just like Sumanji began by asking what has been private sector's role in actually conservation of genetic resources, I want to begin by asking whether the private sector has any understanding of seed sovereignty. Do they know what it means? Does it have any implications for them? And in a globalized world, it's something that we are discussing. But how do we actually engage the private sector on looking at what seed sovereignty means? Because it's not a esoteric ideological concept. When it comes to farmers and their livelihoods, it's a method of de-risking your livelihood. It's about getting back at least some variables in a highly risky profession back into your control. That's what sovereignty at the farmer level is all about. So what does it mean to the private sector while we are discussing in defense of seed sovereignty? That's one question. I'll touch upon four things. I do have some things to raise about the existing gene bank. I want to talk about this whole concept of gene bank itself, both a scientific questioning and a legal questioning around gene banks. I want to talk about community seed banks, just a few things, and then we'll go to PPP and FR Act. On the existing gene bank, from my understanding, there must have been something that was going wrong with the funding to the NDPGR gene bank, because we hear that at least 1 lakh accessions never got characterized. They have 4.7 lakh accessions, and I am conservatively saying at least 1 lakh. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's more than that. So there must have been something that was going wrong with what kind of funding was going and for what. So that's, when we are talking about another gene bank, is there a full comprehensive white paper or a report that talks about what exactly has happened with the existing gene bank? And to me, the questions, Sumanji, are not just about how much has private sector access there and how much are they given back for the fund, but it's about the whole functioning of the gene bank itself. What purposes has it been able to serve and so on? And if more budgets are going to be apportioned for a new gene bank, what is the system redesign that is being talked about? To me, that's one question. And without that, to talk about India wants to be a global leader, this Vishwaguru business for everything, that we will be a global leader in biodiversity conservation. The question is, do we know why and how to become that Vishwaguru? And when you talk about being a global leader, in situ conservation as related to farmers' everyday realities is a very, very critical aspect of becoming a Vishwaguru. Biodiversity conservation is not just in cold storage. The press release is also talking about sustainable farming systems. Do we understand what sustainable farming systems are? If we don't understand the importance of seed diversity in situ in farmers' fields. That's one whole question on the existing gene bank, existing understanding of why gene banks, what does sustainable farming include, all of that. The second question is about gene bank. Like I said, to several of us, it's a very reductionist understanding of what ought to be a holistic approach to seeds. You're calling it a gene bank, and now the whole business is about, you mentioned DSI, AI tools being deployed to look at what are the genes of interest and so on. So I want to ask, in all of this business about gene banks, where does holistic seed science, which also understands that there is this issue of let's say, endophytic microbiota within the seed. That's an important part of what happens when a seed is used in a farmer's field. Whether it is for nutritional security or whether it is for stress tolerance and so on. How are we playing these two things out in India's public policy related to seeds and seed science? Is it all about genes and genes of interest? Is it about a larger issue? And genes of interest has a legal implication, incidentally, and that's because India's courts refuse to adjudicate on this, which is that even though this country's patent statutory regime says you cannot patent seeds and planting material, genetic material is indeed getting patented. And we are all aware of the Nuzivedu-Monsanto fight that had gone till the Supreme Court of India. Supreme Court sent it back. Several people from the civil society also pleaded in that case. It sent it back to the Delhi High Court, and the final agreement happened outside the court. So patentability of genetic material has not been adjudicated legally in this country, and patents are being acquired on genetic material, and you are looking at all kinds of germplasm as essentially gene sequences of commercial interest to you. What happens to seed sovereignty in this legal regime where genetic material is getting patented? And is also leading to de facto monopolies, whether we like it or not. That is the case with cotton in India at this point of time. So, all these imaginations that we have had I don't think Dr. Varaprasad is in the room. This gene bank announcement in this budget came at a time when, for at least 3 years now, Revitalizing Rainfed Agriculture Network, RRA Network, and its working group on seed systems has done a lot of work to get Government of India to create a centrally sponsored scheme on local seed banks is only one component to such seed systems. There's a lot more for those informal seed systems to actually help farmers in their everyday livelihoods. It's about end-to-end interventions. Conservation is one part. Multiplication and making sure that supply is adequate and regular and diverse to all farmers who are asking for it is only a second part. A very important part, like an MSSRF article that just appeared in the Hindu, is that conservation and revival of seed diversity for climate resilience, for 100 other purposes, is actually going to happen in the kitchens of India. Have we done enough to build demand amongst consumers for this conservation and multiplication and cultivation of such seed diversity to be meaningful for farmers? That should be the imagination when we talk about community seed systems. That should be the imagination of reviving informal seed systems. So all of that is not happening. We actually expected that scheme. We were getting indications from the director in the seeds division in the DAC that they will announce the scheme in this budget. Instead of one such scheme, we suddenly heard about the second national gene bank, and I must say, one is very disappointed with the government of India that they don't understand the need to support they're not informal seed systems. I think we should stop calling them informal seed systems. They're actually community seed systems. You have public sector seed systems, you have private sector seed systems. The rest is all community seed systems, because by calling them informal seed sector, we are actually not investing what we ought to be investing. I have been challenging this. I say that the most formal of seed systems, especially led by the private sector, is actually built on the foundation of informal seed sector. Tell me what is formal about the seed multiplication farmers who are being underpaid through seed organizers when private sector multiplies all this. It's an informal seed system on which the formal seed system has actually built itself. So I want to make a distinction saying that this is a community seed system. We need investments on it. It has not happened. But from NBPGR, and this will be the expectation from the second gene bank if it takes off, is that we really want to know where the accessions have come from, especially from farmers of India. That sort of a database doesn't exist at this point of time.
Yeah.
So when we asked, they said,
okay, fine. Was available, 100%.
Fine, I'll take that. I'll take that. No, but sure. The responses that we received.
There is a passport.
That's fine.
Wherever it was available, it's there.
That's fine. That's fine. But we wanted NBPGR data to be readily used as prior art to prevent biopiracy. By creating gene banks and so on, now it looks like we'll have to do surveillance of biopiracy on genetic material and not entire varieties. That will be the worst thing that can happen. But we wanted repatriation of seed varieties to be built as a proper system. For years it didn't happen. Only in the recent past, repatriation of farmers' varieties has begun happening. We want NBPGR data to be complete so that it can be used as prior art. We also want NBPGR and any gene bank to help PPV and FR authority to fulfill its mandate under Section 8(2) of the Protection of Plant Variety and Farmers' Rights Act. One of the key responsibilities of the authority is to actually catalog and document farmers' varieties. They are not supposed to wait for registration processes to start. The authority is proactively supposed to document farmers' varieties. And as far as we know, they have not even begun on that. I'd like to stand corrected. And if they've done, one would like to know, nothing you can find on their website. One would like to know how much documentation of farmers' varieties and so on has happened. That brings me to my last point about the Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers' Rights Act. Now, on the one hand, we began today's conversation by asking what is happening to benefit sharing. That's one kind of a position, where are farmers being acknowledged, what is coming back to them. But on the other extreme, where PPV and FR Act is so very unambiguous and clear about farmers' seed sovereignty, farmers' seed rights and so on, we have instances of farmers being criminalized for just exercising their seed rights. And there I want to talk about the Pepsi case. The fact that, 9 potato farmers got sued and ex-parte injunction was granted to them by a commercial court in Gujarat. And today the case is running in the Supreme Court of India. The authority revoked the certificate of registration of PepsiCo India Holdings on this particular potato variety called 2027. The single judge bench in the Delhi High Court upheld the authority's revocation. And then comes a division bench, unfortunately headed by Dr. Justice Yashwant Verma. I don't want to say anything more about it. You've all read in the papers about,
Fire and the nose.
So I won't say much. We have to wait out what exactly happened in this case of stacks of money found in High Court judge's home. And that was the division bench that overturned the 2 earlier verdicts. And now I am in the Supreme Court. It's not just me. There are many people supporting this. Sumanji is advising on the proper legal strategy on this. We went into this together. So I want to point out that when we talk about seed sovereignty, it's certainly not an issue of one gene bank coming up. That gene bank, if it is not designed properly, its institutional architecture, its legal frameworks under which it operates, all of that might jeopardize seed sovereignty. But there's a whole set of things happening in the country. You mentioned WIPO. We all know about free trade agreements and how, I mean, these are highly secret negotiations that happen. No one knows. The parliament doesn't get to discuss these free trade agreements. But one hears that the one with the European Union as well as the UK has a provision that is forcing India to go into the UPOV system.
UPOV 1991.
1991, not the 78 one, but the 1991. So, in terms of what is happening to seed sovereignty of farmers, on the one hand, we do know that India's food and livelihood security depends on farmers having that seed sovereignty. The fiber security of India might have gone into some Bayer's hands. Fuel security in the form of ethanol and maize may be headed that way. But India's food security and livelihood security is squarely in the community seed sector to this day. And unless we understand the threats from all directions, unless we have, it began with farmer unions having to fight. I would say it doesn't fall just on farmer unions. How many things will they fight for? You all know how much criminalization is happening of farmer leaders. BJP's Kisan Morcha president has CBI raids happening in his house. Then he's standing on the side of farmers, ex-BJP Kisan Morcha president. So you understand the kind of lobbies that are at work, and those lobbies are not just about some private companies. It's entire governments which are getting swayed by those global seed industry players and so on. So I just wanted to flag that PPV and FR Act is something that's almost our mainstay. Because whether we like it or not, Dr. Sarad Babu wanted me to talk about amendments to the Biological Diversity Act. I said I won't talk about it for two reasons. One, the amendments happened due to pharma industry pressure and Mr. Ramdev's pressure.
They have bearing on the
Yeah, they have a bearing, but those amendments will not have immediate implications on cultivated plant species because BDA, because NBA and BDA has not been applied to seed varietal diversity. The statutory framework asks for it, but in implementation, there's very little that they did for it. So I said, no, I don't want to talk about BDA. Let me lay on the table all the various forces that are at play. The last thing that I want to say is that we do have to lobby for, very good public sector investment on community seed systems, but with the full understanding of what does seed sovereignty mean, even in a community seed sector setup, because ultimately it's not about farmers depending on any external source for their seeds to come in. And the seed industry has figured out how to erode that seed sovereignty. Many of you may be familiar with Monsanto's Project Sunshine, Project Sunrays, Project Golden Rays. You would have heard about these maize seed stories. What they had done was they decided that they don't even have to market their varieties by going into the field and convincing farmers to buy them or go through the retail seed networks and so on. They got into one-time deals with state governments where Monsanto gets paid crores of rupees by state governments in the name of Adivasi development and so on. And seed is not even sold to farmers at the grassroots. Tons of seed is given to a state government, which then supplies for 3 years, free of cost, Monsanto's proprietary maize seed. And we all know, everyone in this room knows that it takes just 2-3 years for a community which does not keep its physical seed resources with itself. It's not enough that you have a memory of మా దగ్గర గోవింద భోగ్ ఉండేది, మా దగ్గర ఇంకోటేదో ఉండేది. That won't do. That knowledge and memory of the knowledge alone will not help. You need physical resources in the villages, in the hands of the community, and 2-3 years of not keeping those seed resources with you, you are perpetually dependent on an external agency to supply that seed to you. That should be our understanding of seed sovereignty. Keeping physical material in the hands of every farming community should be our understanding of seed sovereignty. So anything that's coming out of today's discussions, I think we should talk about how we build those kinds of community seed systems back and make them alive. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kavitha. In fact, I will not take my slot actually. Intermittently, I have been open. It is actually your kind of wording communities informal kind of systems is certainly not correct, because it is actually the community seed banks are being funded in China.